Welcome on into episode 16 of the Fortnite skins series, and obviously who you're seeing on the screen right now is the Mahomes saucy style. Now, obviously the Patrick Mahomes bundle that came out in August of 2022 was something I looked into when it came out in early January, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's one of those fringe purchases from a visual slash usage perspective, but I will say that I had to get it because, first of all, it's Patrick Mahomes. Because to me, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback ever, and that's not just because I'm living in the moment. The guy's been playing for 7 years, and his impact on the NFL has been elite, and overall has been something where when you see the fact that he is in a video game years from now when he's not playing anymore, a decade from now when he's done playing, or who knows, even sooner, whatever, the fact that he is in this game is incredible. First of all, the connection I have with Patrick Mahomes and what it impacts on my life is I've been playing fantasy football since I was in high school. And that was back in the early to mid 2000s. And, well, mid 2000s. And when I saw the Patrick Mahomes skin, the first thing I thought of was, well, first of all, getting one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time as a skin in your game is a huge flex for football situations. And, like, you know, when the draft's around or when the Super Bowl's coming or playoffs or whatever, it'd be cool to have a skin that would represent how sporty you are, but also how fun it is. And, you know, when you look at the skin overall, it's one of my favorites in regards to style and detail, and the fact that it's so lifelike, like him. Glasses on, glasses off. It looks good. I didn't want to get the sweatpant version and all the, like, armored stuff because honestly I didn't find it to be too appealing to me, but the suited up hot stuff edition, the spicy, what was it called, Mahomes saucy style edition, I it appealed more to me, and that was why I got it. Um, I veered away from what I was talking about from a how Mahomes impacted me in my life. I have won my fantasy league, my big fantasy leagues, the ones that I've actually like been involved in for years. I won my fantasy leagues in 2018, both of them, both of the big fantasy leagues that I was involved in, with a bunch of my softball buddies, and then in my fraternity league where I finished second, I finished last multiple times. I finished last again this past season. Um, but the one year I won was the year I drafted Patrick Mahomes in like the last couple rounds, so that I could have a backup plan in case, you know, guys got hurt, whatever. It was his second year in his career, the 2018 season, the year that he won the MVP. He had 50 something touchdowns, 5,000 some yards passing, and he lit it up and he got his team all the way to the AFC title. And that year was so cool because I remember in the preseason training camp time when you were hearing all of the news about all these teams and the excitement that the Kansas City Chiefs had about Patrick Mahomes. People didn't believe it. People were like, whatever, it's the Chiefs. Nobody cares. You got to remember, this is back in 2018 before the Chiefs did anything. Like the 2018 offseason when the Chiefs had done nothing in the last 50 years. Nothing. Outside of win the Super Bowl back in the, you know, late 60s, early 70s. They didn't do anything prior to that from the significance perspective of what they've done. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a flyer on him in the last couple rounds of the drafts just to like have a backup quarterback on my roster or a third string quarterback on my roster just in case stuff hits the fan. And I remember within the first couple weeks, I was like, he had a big first couple weeks. Okay. I remember, I think it was that third or fourth week, because I also drafted Cam Newton that year, or I picked him up somehow. And I had Cam Newton, and Cam Newton was still elite back in 2018. But I picked up Patrick Mahomes, and I remember thinking, Well, he's dominated the first couple weeks of the season. I might as well just start him, and I did. And honestly, from there, I dominated. Got all the way to the playoffs. I dominated. And I won my leagues in 2018. This was before anybody knew anything about Patrick Mahomes. I have in my garage right now, I bought a pop. For those of you that don't know what pops are, if you're not from the Pacific Northwest, because it's literally the company itself is founded out here in Everett, Washington, which is about, I'd say, 15, 20 minutes north of Seattle with no traffic, and 30 minutes north of Seattle with no traffic. And they have everything. Any pop figurine, vinyl figurine you've ever seen, they've created it. Before Patrick Mahomes ever even became a concept in the mind of marketing, we've got State Farm, we've got anything. The only version of a representation that I could purchase of him was a patty mayonnaise pop when pops were just starting to get big in the mid 2010s. And I was like, I'm going to go buy a patty mayonnaise pop and I'm going to utilize this as my symbol of why I was so good in my league. And it's because Patrick Mahomes literally carried me to a championship. Put him at QB1, and the rest was history in 2018. For reasons why I didn't keep him, I don't know. I'm a clown. That's on me. But in regards to, because I was in a keeper league and I should have just kept him forever. But quarterbacks and the way they reviewed at that point in time in regards to keepers, I had some other really good players that I wanted to keep for the long term. I didn't think of keeping Patrick Mahomes. I should have. That's me. I'm dumb. I should have just kept him. It would have given me a chance forever to do big things. But I didn't think his rookie year when he had 50-plus touchdowns, broke the touchdown record. I think he broke the passing yards record, too, if I'm not mistaken, won the MVP. I didn't think that was going to be possible to repeat that over and over. I thought it was a fluky thing. I still thought he was going to be a good quarterback. I didn't think he would win 3 Super Bowls, potentially be on his chance for, because by the time we recorded this is before the playoffs and everything, and they're 15-1, 15-2, potentially 16-1, whatever, number 1 seed in the AFC for the 2024 season. I didn't think he would be this good for 7 consecutive seasons. And to see that in hindsight, if I would have known that, I would have kept him on my fantasy team. I never would have even thought about getting rid of him. But I didn't, the way you have to value players in fantasy, it becomes difficult, especially if you have a really good running back or really good receivers. You have to value those over quarterbacks because you can get guys with relatively similar productivity. And there's a vast more majority of quarterbacks that can do that because there's one slot per team. So that's the caveat. I didn't think that through. I should have kept him. This is why I haven't won in the last 6, 7 years since the last time I won, which was his rookie year. Anyway, that's my big connection to Patrick Mahomes. I was one of the few people that said, this dude has a chance to be something big. He could blow up. Anytime there's a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback or a third-year quarterback who hasn't played that you're hearing big news about in training camp that you think can do big things, take a flyer on him. Patrick Mahomes was that guy for me in 2018. I won both my leagues. That's all I need to say. In regards to the conversation of usage for Patrick Mahomes in Fortnite, I'm obviously going to use him for certain situations. When there's red in a map, I'm going to use him because this is a map, a skin that I could easily use with red settings. Obviously, if it's a red versus blue, yeah, I'm going to use Patrick Mahomes because I can see him. In the conversation of the greatest quarterback of all time, people are like, well, why would you use Patrick Mahomes in that conversation when you got guys like Tom Brady who even beat Patrick Mahomes in 2020? Listen, he's won 3 Super Bowls in 7 years. He's been to the AFC title every single year he's been in the league. Obviously, I recorded this before the AFC title, so I don't know if they're going to make it or not. But based on the fact that they were the number 1 seed for the AFC, the chances are high that they will represent and be the team that plays in the AFC. And again, playing at home. If they win their first playoff game and they play at home, by the time this is done recording, they will have then they would have hosted 5 of the last 7 AFC titles that they've been in. That doesn't happen. That never happens. They've been to 4 Super Bowls. They've lost 1. Like, what they've done, and potentially they could be going to their 5th here in this conversation. What Patrick Mahomes has done to carve out really what I would say this is a halfway portion of his career, because I think he's 29 or 30 years old. He's halfway through his career, if not, he's got maybe 10 more years left at most. If he duplicates any portion of what he's done in his first 7 years of his career, there's a no debate conversation that he's the GOAT, because he's been so consistent. And if you watch his Netflix of QB1 with him in it, the last couple episodes are absolutely stunning. They are stunning. They are a representation of what it takes to have a winning championship mentality. And if you don't have the respect for Patrick Mahomes after those Netflix specials, that Netflix special, and you don't get some kind of, I don't know, I get the hair raising off my back, I get the adrenaline rush, I get the excitement, I get the rooting for this guy. Like, this dude is the right stuff. And as somebody who's a diehard Vikings fan and who watched Kirk Cousins on the other side, Patrick Mahomes made Kirk Cousins look absolutely terrible. Not that I already knew that he was a head case, but that show just absolutely proved that he was a head case. Not that Kirk Cousins is a bad guy. Patrick Mahomes is just next level, all-time Hall of Fame elite. And to watch that changed my entire perspective of him. Not that I never didn't like him. I've always liked Patrick Mahomes. But that even gave me a greater respect for him because of how structured he is as an individual, because of how championship mentality driven he is to take his team and himself to the next level from a motivational perspective. I have all the respect in the world for him. And to be honest with you, not just because he's the best quarterback in the game, and because in my opinion he's the greatest quarterback of all time, he's one of my favorite players. And that says a lot. Like, Tom Brady, you can still debate as a GOAT from the totality of his career. You can make that debate. From what I've seen with my own eyes, I've been watching the NFL pretty much since I was 9 years old, 9 years old. I have seen a lot of amazing quarterbacks, and I've never seen someone as good as Patrick Mahomes in such a short time. I've called him the GOAT, honestly, since a couple years ago. I've thought he was the GOAT before he won his 2nd Super Bowl. I've never seen somebody play like he plays, with such a finesse, with such a play. I mean, I've seen Aaron Rodgers. He's very similar, but Aaron Rodgers is nowhere as good as Patrick Mahomes, and I think Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback all time. I think Tom Brady's obviously a top 5 quarterback. I think John Elway's in that conversation. Obviously, Dan Marino, who paved the way for everybody. Like, there's a lot of incredible names at the top 10 quarterback position. But I think if Patrick Mahomes distances himself with a legacy and an outline of winning and doing what he does for the longevity of his career, you can look at a scenario in which he really distances himself from a championship perspective like no one else. Honestly, 4 Super Bowls that he's been to, 3 that he's won, he could potentially win 3 in a row. It is mind-boggling with where he's at, all the sponsorships, all the money he makes, and his teams are still good. He still makes that offense run when they really don't have much around him. It's a testament to how incredible he is as a player and as a quarterback. That's why I had to get him, and that's why I had to pick him up for my Fortnite skin altogether. Because let's be honest, this dude and what he's done in his career is mind-boggling, because anybody who I know would love to have him on their team. No duh. Every other 29 team, if they had Patrick Mahomes, the league would be 1,000 times better, because it'd be so intense and so much better. But that's not the reality. The NFL, the reality is the NFL does not have this many players like this. And he's one of one. I think he's the greatest player of all time. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking about him in Fortnite. I legitimately think that. And I know he's got the swag and the ideology and the understanding of the kids and what's popular, and to put himself out there like this, to be on a Fortnite skin, all the power to him, all the respect to him, and to be honest, wouldn't have it any other way. I think he's the GOAT. So All right, that's my episode. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on episode 17.